Race 1 went to Garth Tander after a handy battle with Mark Scaife. We are now getting set for race 2 of the V8 Challenge here on the Gold Coast.
Yes, Billy, V8 Supercars are out on the streets for another bash at the V8 Supercar Challenge. Garth Tander, after winning race 1, will start off pole position, which he earned in the rain on Saturday. Mark Scaife will start alongside Glenn Seaton, and Russell Ingall start out of road 2. Larry Perkins and John Faulkner, good result in the Dynapack entry. Stephen Richards and Tony Longhurst did well to get up to 8th.
Then Greg Murphy is 9th, although we're hearing he may have a problem with the cars running on 7 cylinders. Then Stephen Johnson, Todd Kelly, Mark Larkin, David Bernard, Rodney Forbes, Jason Bargwana and Paul Romano 16th.
Plenty of V8s here. Paul Wheel and Marcus Ambrose had some problems in the early one. Stephen Ellery and Anthony Tratt, Brad Jones and Paul Morris. Bradley was not happy after a collision with Stephen Johnson. Cameron McConville, Craig Lowndes, Paul Radisich and Thomas Mazira all eliminated.
And Lowndes not running damage to that car sufficient that they don't have the equipment required to repair it in order to get it out for this race this afternoon. So unfortunately we don't see the 00 car in the field, Greg.
Yeah, just to confirm exactly what you said, Neil, just had a word to Alan Heafy and the guys, and they feel it's better to look after this car with Pukekohe just around the corner. So Craig Lowndes, a non-starter in this one.
Well, here comes the Kmart Commodore. Greg Murphy apparently was reporting in that the car was only running on 7 cylinders. He's come into pit lane now. Rob Crawford and the boys on the job. Bonnet's up, that's never a good sign.
Ray Robbins from Avesco just on the front left-hand corner as we look at the car there, just overseeing whatever the problem may be.
Well, the opening V8 Supercar race was a pretty tame affair. There's Murphy trying to get it going, but he's going to be too late. You can hear the revs rising on the main straight. They're waiting for the starter. Murphy's coming back out, but he's going to have to start from pit lane. Let the whole field go through, and away they go. Fantastic start. Tander, half a car in front of Scaife. He's got good bite out of the Valvoline Cummins. Commodore puts the power down very well.
England seat.
Swings across to take the lead.
England seat. Oh, yeah, England got him.
Let's see, they can shuffle through here nice and cleanly. Boy, there's plenty resting on this weekend. New Zealand only 2 weeks away. No one wants to leave this track with a damaged motor car. And it looks like they've all been pretty sensible on this opening lap, but we haven't completed even half of the opening lap yet, so keep your fingers crossed. Hard under brakes down to turn 3 the first time around. Enormous speed from the V8 Supercars. You can see the fans lining the track. They love these things. Big attraction at Honda Indy every year. Garth Tander in command from Mark Scaife. Castrol Commodore in there too. Glenn Seaton did well in race 1. Let's see if he can capitalise in race 2. Been fighting a lone hand amongst a horde of Commodores.
I tell you, if anybody was having anything overheating, like if they were hot brakes towed, yeah, we've got some.
Yeah, Larkin's got a problem with some smoke belching from that thing for some reason.
Fords are dropping like flies at Surface Paradise. Look at that smoke pouring from it.
Oh, that's Brad Jones looks like a smoker as well. Well, if that's the same car of Bradley's, they've done a good job to get that sorted out.
Markham didn't even complete a lap. We hear Todd Kelly has also come in, so this is a disastrous weekend for the Kmart racing team. Greg Murphy had a brilliant fight back in race 1 from the back of the grid to get up into the top 10. See, that car was in all sorts of trouble in pit lane. His teammate now is in trouble. So not a good weekend for the Kmart operation. Good for Garth Tander, though. Shows the... Oh, look at the car get sideways. Really? Flings it out of Ceresia Avenue up toward Hill Parade. Really getting on the gas on this opening lap, and the tyres aren't quite up to temperature. And he's in command of this one.
Well, Todd Kelly to race 2 for the Kmart racing team. What's happened?
When I went out, the temperature actually was quite hot, and on the warm-up lap it kept climbing and basically went right over the top, and that engine is actually our New Zealand race engine, so if I had kept going around it would have definitely blown up.
What about your teammate Murph?
Well, I was flat out on the radio. I don't know why Murph come in. He was right in front of me, and he's actually got back out into the race, so I don't know what happened.
Well, never to find out, boys.
He might have heard you and thought, oh, that sounds like a good idea.
Well, here from the pits that Larko's radioed in. It's just the tyre rubbing on the bodywork. We're not quite sure what the problem is at this stage.
Track temperature now is about, oh, look at that, Scaife. Track temperature is about 47 degrees, and the ambient temperature is up close to 30, so that's hot old afternoon's work for these guys.
There's Larkham in pit lane, and the front right wheel getting attention. That's where we saw the smoke puffing from earlier in the race.
Yeah, and somebody's given that a rub in the first couple of corners. It's pretty hot out there, Barry, and it's also quite windy. You know the geography around here better than I, but it looks as if it's a westerly or a northwesterly breeze.
Incredible shot that was. I thought, sorry, it broke. Sorry about that.
No, I'm just talking about the breeze here, which has a bit of an effect on this place because it brings sand onto the track. Is that a westerly or a northwesterly breeze out there at the moment?
That is a westerly breeze. And on the other hand, if you have a really strong easterly, that drags the sand.
Yeah, so in some respects, that's probably to our advantage. Then it's blowing the rubbish away.
But it is. It's got very windy just in the last half an hour.
Let's have a look at this replay. And Cameron McConville and Paul Morris, do they come to blows here?
Well, he did a good job.
Oh.
That's
Curb.
well.
That's corner cutting for you.
Mark Larkham in the car. Ford has just returned, guys. They've done some panel beating to the front right of the car. As you said, Neil, Alex Zirkling from the team here says it was contact with another driver early in the race that caused that damage.
Now let's have a look at this replay again. Now we hear that Paul Morris has been awarded a stop-go penalty as a result of that. So the big Kev car will be heading into pit lane pretty soon. So penalties being meted out.
There's 2 out of 2 for Paul then.
Yeah. So the order is Garth Tander, Mark Scaife, Russell Engel, Glenn Seaton, the first of the Fords, Larry Perkins, John Faulkner, Stephen Johnson fighting back in the Shell car, Stephen Richardson, Jason Bargwana. We go on board with Mark Scaife, the reigning Shell Series champion. You can see quite clearly that extended gear shift they're running in the number 1 car now.
Yeah,
Must have got that from the Wonthaggi school bus.
Yeah, it looks like industrial strength gear lead, doesn't it?
It's not a bad idea because when you look at the setup they used to have on some of those super touring cars, the gear shifter was very close to the steering wheel. You also see it in World Rally cars as well.
Notice that Mark is back to first gear to come onto the Esplanade and getting the cars to leap off these corners is a bit of a trick. Now Mark Larkham that is, has been in for that damage repair and has gone back out in front of the leaders. So good for coverage, but not good for his results at the moment. Here's the penalty for Paul Morris.
Slow takeoff.
Gets the ping-pong bat routine. Blue flags waving there to warn Mark Larkham. He's got to have his mirrors full of the whole field, branching down on the Karsha Ford.
And Garth has now flicked the headlights on just to remind Mark if he can get a bit of extra space, that'd be very handy. Thank you, Greg.
Just had a word to Greg Worcester and the boys down at Big Kev Racing. They tell me that there was contact with Cameron McConville, and that's what sent Paul Morris across the chicane. Now, he's been given a stop-go penalty for that, and the team are not too happy about it right now.
We saw Paul just observing that instruction to come in and take that stop, and they did go side by side into the turn 1 chicane, and they were bumping and making contact, and ultimately Morris straight lined it.
In the opening race, Tander was able to open a gap to Scaife about 2 seconds. Scaife really started to chomp into that in the closing laps of that one. Now the gap has not grown over half a second. Scaife's not letting him run away. I've got to say the Valvoline Cummins car is working particularly well on this circuit. Can run with the pace of the Holden Racing Team operation. It's one thing to be close, Neil, but then you've got to try and find your way past.
Not an easy thing to do around this circuit, and generally the only way to do it is to punish the brakes, and that has diminishing returns because if you stay 100% hard committed to that brake pedal, it tends to go away from you. And look at the pressure on Faulkner here. The Shell Helix Fords runs down the inside of Stephen Johnson.
Just a little bit more conservative into turn 3 that time. Remember, he locked up his rear brakes and slid off on the opening lap.
Doesn't look as if Russell Engel's got the pace of Scaife and Tander, because the last lap was full half a second slower, so I don't know whether he came up against anything. But
they're running a bit quicker this afternoon than they did earlier on. Their fastest laps have been down around the flat 54s. Fastest lap so far for Mark Scaife, but only marginally quicker than Garth Tander, who was the fastest man in the first race.
From a driver's perspective, Neil, keeping in mind that the Gold Coast V8 races are not championship rounds, you haven't got the Shell Championship on the line. Does that affect the way you approach this race? There must be some level of conservatism, particularly with New Zealand only a fortnight away.
I think it depends on individual circumstances, Mark, and which cars you're using and so on. Some of these guys have got the benefit of having more than one car, so that certainly has an impact on the way in which you approach it. Race drivers are race drivers, and if they get a sniff of some success, they'll be into it. I mean, most of these guys will be 10 tenths, but What probably varies is whether or not you decide to pull a desperate. I mean, I think that in terms of your lap time commitment, the way in which you drive the car, I doubt very much whether the speed would vary from championship round to a race like this, which is what effectively we call a showcase race. But certainly you may not dive into a hole that you might if you think there's championship points at stake.
You wouldn't do a Steve Johnson.
Now, come on, don't you put words in. You'll have Dick chasing me with a big club.
No. Great to see John Faulkner doing so well in the Dynapack Commodore. He'll be heading over to New Zealand, something he's thrilled about, performing in front of his home audience there at Pukekohe. Should be a huge event.
It'll be an excellent event. One guy that's going very well here this weekend is Glenn Seaton in the FTR Ford. I know Glenn is not a lover of this track, and in fact a couple of occasions in the last few years he's actually said, here, you drive it for me. I think it was 98 and last year. He'll do anything he can not to run here. He just doesn't particularly enjoy the concrete walls, but he's really running well at the moment. So well done, Glenn and FTR. And he's tucked there in fourth at the moment.
Certainly is. Garth Tander's your race leader, though, with Scape and Ingle in hot pursuit. Perkins, Faulkner, Stephen Johnson and Stephen Richards round out the top 8. Jason Barwana and David Bernard up in the top 10. Longhurst, Wheel, Ambrose fighting back as well. Rodney Forbes, Stephen Ellery and Paul Romano going with him. Plenty more to come on the streets of Surfers Paradise. This is Honda Indy 300 on Network 10. Well, the weather is beautiful on the Gold Coast. Gorgeous sunny afternoon. And we're watching some action here on the V8 Supercars. Positions remaining fairly static in the battle for the lead, though. It's between Garth Tander, Mark Scaife and Russell Ingall. Let's have a look at an incident earlier on.
Oh, dear.
That was the collision between Paul Romano and Anthony Tratt. Anthony managed to get out of the wall and get back to pit lane, and I think Paul Romano's just come into pit lane as well. Let's have a look at this from another angle.
Oh. Plenty of room there, wasn't there?
Gee, as you say, Neil, it's tight around this place.
Well, that's the thing. There's really only one race line in several places, and it's so hard to get cars to run side by side here. And
that's where they had the nose to tail last year.
Oh, that's right. Last year it was like a parking lot up there. It was just unbelievable.
Tell you what, they're pushing pretty hard, though. Tander, Scaife and Ingle are all under the former lap record held by Craig Lowndes at 153.75, and Marcus Ambrose has really chopped the legs out of that one, a 153.26. So Ambrose pushing very hard in the Pertec car. Look at this battle in the main straight between the Kmart car and the Aussie Mail Ford. They're going to go side by side under brakes. Brad Jones just takes a little bit more territory, manages to push his way through.
Remember, these guys were old teammates in the Audi days. The interesting thing, Mark, we were talking in the break, is that and Scaife has a look up the inside now of Tander. I think he might get him to run up here to turn 5. He's well positioned and does the business. Well, isn't the obviously it's you know, temperature maybe? I think he bumped the wall there.
How close did he
Pretty
go?
sure he actually gave the wall a nudge on the exit of 6, and he's looking in the
Yes, definitely. 100%.
You can see the rear tyre rubbing there. A little puff of smoke might not be bad enough to cause him any problems. Watch when the car's loaded up that direction.
If ever you needed evidence that rubber has an impact on lap times, think of the speed these guys were doing in their first race earlier today versus this run now after qualifying. Tander's car, the back of it gets all out of shape in the run up to turn 8. Ingle says, I wouldn't mind a percentage of this action.
A little bit of this?
Yeah, give me some of this.
Well, the good thing is for Mark Scaife that he does have his New Zealand race car packed away in the truck and ready to go.
Look at this, watch the Energizer replay. Does he make contact? Oh,
yes.
Actually, it wasn't too bad. I think it might have only been bumper. It could have been worse. If he gave that wheel a nudge, he could have done diff housing damage.
It was just
suspension
a shave,
damage.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just shaved the back of the car. You couldn't go closer than that without damaging the car. So Mark Scaife pushing hard. The 3 cars at the front under the lap record. You see the smoke belching from that left rear tyre as a result of that rub, but it may not be bad enough to cut that time, Neil. He might be able to get through.
No, this is not a place to have. This is absolutely not the place to have a car deflate on you. I mean, have a tyre deflate on you, I should say.
The Anthony Tratt one earlier on was a good one, wasn't it?
Yeah, if a tyre blows here, then you'd be just vacuuming the thing back into the truck.
From the Channel 10 chopper, giving you a unique view. This panoramic circuit, it really is quite unusual the way it weaves its way between the hotels and the condominiums. Mark Scaife in command. Jeff Gregg would be happy about that.
Well, he's out in front, which is good news, but the little clash with the wall must have got the hard racing, did it?
Yeah, well, Rusty, I ran over to the pit wall to have a look, to be honest. The orders were no scratches on the cars, but we'll deal with it afterwards. If he wins the race, I suppose we'll relent a little bit.
We've been saying up in the commentary box, the boys have been chatting about the fact that although it's a bit of a showcase race, once these guys get into it, they sort of can't help themselves, can they?
Oh, absolutely not, Rusty. You can talk to them till you're blue in the face. When the helmets go on, the visors go, they're off. So, but look, he obviously just had a bit of a slip coming out of the corner, went in a bit deep and just had a glance. It doesn't look bad, so keep our fingers crossed.
Thanks, Jeff.
See ya.
Yeah, pushing hard. These leaders, they've really opened up a gap. 5 seconds back to Seaton.
Spoken like a true team manager. You can talk to them until they're blue in the face.
He's a good laugh on Jeff, though.
Yeah, and he heads a pretty formidable operation. There's no V8 supercar team in the country that can match HRT's consistent level of performance. They're just very, very formidable operation.
Not yet, at least.
Not yet. On board the Pertec Ford, this is the fastest man on the circuit, and he's set a new lap record at 1:53.26. He's chopped about half a second off the existing record set by Lowndes, 1:53.75. So Marcus is clearly fastest man on the track this time around.
If he gets in front of Tony Longhurst, Ross is going to be on the Jim's going to be on the phone. So, remember what happened last time, Marcus?
Yes. Oh, problems here for Seaton.
Glenn Seaton.
Well, I can remember our co-commentator Neil Crompton suffering a
doesn't react to any throttle.
mechanical problem with the Seaton Ford here. Robbed you of a race win. Looks like it struck again, Neil.
Yeah, just a little bit of chat we picked up in the background there. It sounded like something related. It's not responding to the throttle. So I don't. When we were leading in '98, it was a Watts link bolt failure, but that sounds like maybe a throttle cable or some other thing, maybe an electronic problem. Who knows? But disappointing for Glenn because he was in a very good position. Marcus Ambrose still flying the Ford flag high. He's attacking Tony Longhurst at the moment. Remember, Tony came out of this team, and he's got two Stone Brothers cars bottled up there at the moment. And Paul Wheel on the attack, and they're all very, very close.
He's managed to find his way past David.
Yeah,
Bernard.
I was going to say, yeah. So's Longhurst. Oh, David.
Well, he's in trouble. We saw him in a similar position in race 1 as a result of a tag from his teammate. Now he's ended up on the curbs in race 2. Oh, he's got a flat tyre in the bargain. Whether he can limp that back to the pits on that ball of rubber.
What happened there?
Let's have a look here.
Oh, here we go.
This is a close. Oh, what are you doing?
Go, Tony.
Wow. Now, that could come for a leg slapping session, couldn't it?
Boing.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was it.
I'm sure Tony will have an excellent excuse for why the car suddenly jagged right there. Let's have a look at this. Another incident. Oh, this was a
full wheel, and no, it looks like his thing was. It's obviously that was David going around again with the flats. Oh dear me!
Yeah, so I'm not sure whether the
tyre's blown as a result of the contact. Something in bodywork or rear bumper has ended up.
That was after the tyre.
Yeah, that's right. The
David doesn't so much limp back to the pits as run, does he?
Well, Glenn Seaton, tell us what's gone wrong. You're in pit lane and not looking too happy.
We don't really know. It's either broken a throttle sensor or something. Because you can just crack the throttle and drive back to the pits, but once you put power into it, it just breaks down all the time. So
it's a shame it had been going so well for you.
Yeah, it's been going well this weekend, but it's motor racing, as they say.
Bring on New Zealand.
Thank you.
9.5 seconds the gap now back to Perkins, who takes over 4th place from Glenn Seaton. In fact, the top 5 cars are all Commodores. The first of the Fords is Stephen Johnson. He's in 6th, fighting his way back from a bad starting position. So Junior's got it together. Here's our race leader, Mark Scape, looking very much in command. 1:54.11 his last lap. A lot of guys running in the 55, 56 and up into the 57s. So Scape setting the pace as Marcus Ambrose continues to attack Tony Longhurst Commodore. Here it is. Here's the battle. Longhurst running in 9th. Ambrose in 10th. The wheel just slipped back a little bit. He's in 11th spot.
Now, they don't seem to be jumping the curbs any more than they were in the first race. Or, you know, they're jumping it just as badly, I should say. And nobody's had the black flag on it.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Baz. One driver who has had the black flag is Stephen Ellery. He's come in the Super Cheap Ford. Just had a word to him a moment ago. He said he copped it for the curb hopping. He said straight out, this is a joke. We're not going any further.
Well, selling it like it is. is.
A couple of great shots here. We had Marcus getting all sideways on the exit at 10, and then Tony getting all sideways coming onto the front straight. Now just 1 lap to go. This is another great performance from Mark Scaife, who's now just skipped away ever so slightly from Garth Tanner, and it looks like Garth's coming into the clutches of Russell Ingall. Whether there's a positional change here, I don't know, but I doubt it. I don't know that Russell's got that much more speed than Garth. They're all starting to slip and slide a bit now.
I was talking to Mark the other day about the pre-season expectation that the loss of Craig Lowndes from HRT would have actually taken the wind out of their sails, maybe affected their potency, but if anything, they've raised the bar again in 2001. It's been a most incredible performance by the factory Holden team.
You hit the nail on the head before, Mark, when you talked about their consistency. I think the extraordinary thing about the team, and certainly it's the thing that the other teams are constantly working on, is just being able to be consistently fast. We see spot results from various teams up and down the paddock who have some excellent results at times, but they don't stitch it together nearly as consistently as Jeff and his team at the Holden Racing team and Mark and Jason. It really is a very strong and enviable performance for those other teams in the paddock.
So Garth Tander getting a little bit taily as he gets the power on. Maybe his rear tyres getting a little bit tight. He's only got the final lap to go. Just see the car dancing around at the rear end. Russell Ingall closing in as they come up toward the Honda hairpin for the final time. Unless Garth makes a boo-boo, he's not going to be able to find a way past. Final turn, final time down the Gold Coast Highway for race leader and race winner Mark Scaife. Headlights ablaze. Good job. Gets a pat on the back from his chief engineer, Robbie Starr.
Well, that's one of the less spectacular V8 races you're ever going to see.
Well, I think it's the nature of this place, Barry. The way this track and the way this race, this meeting is positioned in the year. It was always awkwardly placed. It was always like a couple of weeks or 2 or 3 weeks before Bathurst. Now it's only 2 weeks before New Zealand. It's very, very difficult.
Plus the fact, as a support category, it's exactly that. If the kart situation, if one, so they have sort of a blow this or a blow up somewhere or another, they can cancel any one of the support races, can't they? So and get everybody here and say, well, sorry, you're not playing.
Yeah. So that completes the V8 Supercar Challenge. Russell Ingall, good effort to not only finish third, but he was also one of the 4 cars under the existing lap record. But Marcus Ambrose set the track alight, a 53.26 for the Pertec Ford driver. So Ambrose certainly showing a lot of potential for next year. So Scaife, Tander and Ingall taking the cheers of the crowd. Plenty of Holden fans lining the streets here. And this is the man who's really done the business in 2001. Claimed victory at the V8 Supercar 1000 at Mount Panorama, which virtually sewed up his 4th national title.
To better this year, I reckon, Mark, than ever before. I mean, people can give him all the excuses in the world. He's still a bloody good driver and deserves another championship.
You know, the really awesome thing about this combination, though, that guy still has at least 10 good years left.
Yeah, I know. It's incredible when you think about it.
And you think about the structure, the funding, the technology behind this team. Imagine them being the dominant force for many, many years to come. So Scaife, brilliant on the streets of Surfers Paradise, found a gap, forced his way past the Valvoline Cummins car, and just barely a scrape on the bodywork of the Holden Racing Team Commodore. Garth Tander was 1.6 seconds behind at the end, with Ingall breathing down his neck. Larry Perkins, John Faulkner, Commodores 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stephen Johnson and Stephen Richards flying the Ford flag, with Vargs in 8th spot.
Then Longhurst in that spirited battle with Ambrose. Then Wheel, Radisich, Murphy, Jones, the old teammates having a scrap there. McConville and Forbes, Bernard, Romano, Morris, Larkham, and the other blokes not making the grade. We'll have more of this exciting Honda Indy 300 right after the break.
Two races down, 2 different winners in the V8 Supercar Challenge here at the Honda Indy 300. Still very warm conditions on this Saturday afternoon. It is race day tomorrow for the Champ Cars, and of course another race for the V8 Supercars as well. But right now, let's talk to the men on the podium.
Well, Billy, there's 3 of them down here, and they're all Holdens too. Russell Ingall, you gave it your all in that race, and it's been good for you when you consider that you qualified 11th, but you worked your way up the order.
Yeah, no, look, I'm just sort of cruising about. I mean, we're still remembering we're taking this car to New Zealand in a couple of weeks' time, but no, just having a leisurely drive, looking at a couple of balconies, which is a bit distracting, but no, look, mate, just we'll have a go tomorrow. We'll be right.
Any paint damage?
No, first race a little bit of scrape down the side, but no, in this one, clean as a whistle. Tomorrow there might be a few.
All right, keep it nice and straight, or try to. Tomorrow we'll move along to second place in race 2. Well done, Garth Tander.
Thanks, Rusty. Yeah, it was made a mistake up the end there and Scapey got through, but that's okay. We're just here to have a bit of fun, and I think we're having a bit of fun. So the main game is to keep the things off the walls and take the cars to New Zealand.
Been a tough one for you so far this season, but it was nice to bounce back with a victory in the first race this morning.
Yeah, we're not finished yet. I don't know what Scapey thinks he's going to win the last one, but we'll get a bit of revenge. So it's it's been tough, but we're coming good at the right end of the year, so a bit of luck.
What is it with you blokes? You're meant to be packing them in the boat, and you're talking about taking the gloves off, huh?
I mean, that's how it is, isn't it? The red mist descends as soon as the boys get in the seat. So, I mean, that's the sort of show we put on, and we've had some great races here over the years. It's sort of a shame not to come back, because the fans certainly love it here, and it's one of those things that always tends to compact the field. As I said, we've had some fantastic events, so, that was a really good race.
Well done to you. You've been continuing that form to Bathurst, and now this is just a bit of a steamroller for you, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, we're probably taking it pretty easy, Rusty, but then when Garth left me a little hole there, I sort of had to use it up.
Good on you, boys. Best of luck for the final one tomorrow.
Thanks, Greg.